You've probably never considered what could occur if there were no fear. You may believe that you would develop bravery if you were fearless, but when you think about what may happen to us if we didn't have fear, you'll probably answer, "I'm glad we have fear." Now consider this. What if we were completely fearless? Would a courageous humanity bravely face every situation, or would it overreact and endanger itself? Together, let's investigate the answer to this query and learn what would happen if we were fearless. One essential survival mechanism is our dread. Our bodies naturally sound an alert when they perceive danger, helping to keep us safe. Even the most basic threats may go unnoticed by us if we had no anxieties. In really dangerous conditions, a person who doesn't feel intimidated would be at risk. For instance, driving too fast, scaling hazardous heights, or even purposefully posing a risk to one's life. Such actions would become more prevalent in daily life if there was no fear. But there's a thin line between being fearless and taking chances. Perhaps individuals might act too bravely, putting their lives at jeopardy. However, the fear is also an emotion which makes connection with other human beings possible. For instance, when people speak of their fears, they tend to grow closer together. But if we take away the fear in the relation, how would that affect the social interactions? In the presence of this emotion, it could be possible for the society's sense of empathy and sense of belonging to one another to be eroded. It's fear that prompts people towards action and protection of other people. In its absence, perhaps the most dominant trait will be individualism, and this could further alienate individuals. Furthermore, fear goes a long way in ensuring that society remains as a cohesive unit. The fear of the law and the fear of authority are tools used by both society and structured legal systems as deterrents against threats. Without such emotions, the rate of criminal activity can be very high and social order can be thrown into disarray. Apart from its debilitating effects, fear has an energy that acts as a catalyst for action or activity. For example, the fear of failing helps people to do better than what is expected of them. In commerce, in art, in science, in any area, a person overrides his limits in order to succeed. Therefore, fear can also be said to be a bad emotion, but in this case, there is also an advantage from it. What if there was no fear? Perhaps things would be very different when it comes to creativity and innovation. People will flout the risks as they have no fear of the failure, but this could sometimes result into catastrophes due to excessive confidence with no control. Perhaps only the development of fear can allow creativity to grow substantially. Fear is a factor that should not be ignored in the development of a person. As it is, when individuals confront their fear, they are made more powerful by mastering their fear. But how would the process of self-advancement be if there was no fear? People would perhaps be idle because they would believe that everything can be achieved without a struggle. From an evolutionary perspective, the absence of such a basic instinct may hinder people from having any ambition, and thus purposelessness would be normal. In fact, such a world where there is no pain and suffering may be detrimental in the sense that it discourages development of emotional intelligence and resilience in individuals. It is an established fact that evolution has made hardships a necessity in our lives. By facing and later on conquering our fears, we are gifted with essential life skills, survival. If fear did not exist, however, humanity would arguably suffer from extremely high rates of psychological breakdowns. Fears also affect our relationships. This is especially true in love. It is often about facing fears and showing strength. When two partners acknowledge and appreciate the fears of the other, as well as the weaknesses and shortcomings, they are able to develop close relationships. But then, what if there are no fears? Perhaps then people will be much less intimate and connected emotionally to others. Love comes with trust, but at the same time, fear exists too. In that way, fear helps people broaden their hearts and become closer. What do you think a world without fear would look like? Perhaps one in which people would not be so trusting of one another, and love would be expressed in a more shallow way. So, what about you? Would you want to live without your fears? While survival without fears might seem easy, it could also be just as challenging. Would a fearless humanity be stronger or would it be more vulnerable? This question varies from person to person, so feel free to share your thoughts with us. See you in the next What If scenario.